Hey everyone, Brendan Snyder here. How are you? Got Vito joining me.
It's been a while.
Yeah, it's good to have you back.
Yeah.
So we had another topic here today. We're going to talk about why is it that some bands can change members, keep going, stay popular, and others seemingly kind of just die off. Nobody has any interest. You change one member and it's over.
Yeah, I think there's different levels to that, I'd
Right.
say. You had mentioned Deep Purple.
Right.
I would say,
They're ones that have changed. I mean, they were at what, like Mark 8 or something right now?
yeah. You mentioned Van Halen too.
Right.
Singers. And then I probably more or less focus on more of the 80s bands because
Okay.
that's my niche.
Right.
Like LA Guns and Faster Pussycat. So,
Right.
yeah.
But, okay, so take Faster Pussycat for an example, where only the singers at that time was
correct.
left, and
Correct.
but they also changed their sound. So to me, you're not only changing members, but then you became an industrial metal sound.
Yeah,
band.
for a bit.
That's going to be more what killed the band, I think, than changing the members.
Yeah, well, I think what happened, I don't know if people know, Tammy left, Fast Pussycat, started the Newly Deads.
Right.
And then what happened was, during that time, promoters were calling him,
Right.
offering the money to put Faster back,
Right. So he just took Newly Deads
and just turned it into Faster Pussycat,
Right.
but kept that industrial sound.
No, and it was to me a big mistake.
Yeah, and I loved it.
Yeah.
Like, I loved The Power and the Glory Hole. I
Well,
loved that
that's
album.
true. I mean, that's why. What was the other album we were arguing about that you loved and I hated?
It might have been,
No, you came in the first time you came in. You had a complaint.
oh,
with me.
Generation Swine.
Yeah, Generation
Yeah.
Swine. Right. You liked those, or seemed to like when some of those bands made those variations on their sound or modified their sound.
Yes, and I think the reason for that, for me, is I'd rather them do anything than nothing.
Oh, I am wholeheartedly with you. I would rather a band get a new member and keep going, even if it changes the sound, than to do nothing. I'd rather have something than nothing.
Yes.
I agree, and a lot of people, comment on the channel and videos and things when I'm doing it or talking about a new release coming out, and then I'm not interested in that band or I don't like that band.
I can put
They
it
change
aside,
this member or whatever. And I think, wouldn't
what
you
is your
rather still have something?
I
than-
would.
Yeah, and that's how I am. I guess because if let's
Okay,
say,
we'll be waiting for
like with
you
Van
behind the
Halen,
counter.
right? David Lee
Just
Roth
come in
is
next
out.
door.
They could have changed the name and formed a
problem.
different group, so to speak, with
Correct.
Sammy Hagar.
Okay, so
I
you're
would
not-
have still followed that. I still like solo projects, side projects, offshoots. So I guess because my mind is there, I'm willing to accept when a band member changes, even if it's still under the name of the original
Yes.
group.
I agree, and I like it. Van Halen's odd, though.
Yeah.
How many bands switch singers, become, and when I mean more successful,
Continue
I mean
to success.
money-wise.
Yeah.
They actually, I think, sold more albums under Van Hagar.
Maybe not in the long run. I did look this up recently.
Did you?
They've definitely sold more albums with David Lee Roth, but they didn't dip at all at that time. They continued the upward, mobility that they did. Anthony can speak to his love and disdain of David Lee Roth versus Hagar, being somebody who's not as interested in the Hagar era as the Roth era, whereas
Zero Hagar.
Zero Hagar, whereas
Zergar.
we loved it, but
It's not bad.
Right.
It's just not the Van Halen I grew to know and love.
and I think that's a key thing. I think a lot of people, sometimes the change is so dramatic that it is no longer their band.
Didn't Alex just say the same shit?
Yeah.
Alex just had a great quote about
He
how
did.
Van Halen was everything with Roth
David Lee
without
Roth.
knocking Hagar.
Yeah,
And I'm not knocking. It's just that's not my Van Halen.
that's what he said. Yeah.
Some people put cream in their coffee. Van Halen put cream in their coffee. I want my coffee black.
Yeah.
I do
That's
as
it.
well, but I might disappoint both of you.
Go ahead.
I love
You like Sharon?
I loved Gary Sharon with Van Halen.
I liked Gary Sharon live with the band
Yes.
because they returned to doing a lot of David Lee Roth songs that Hagar wouldn't do. So when I heard them live, I thought it was great. The album,
that's different.
yeah, the album itself seemed like they were trying to rewrite one of every hit off of their previous albums. It wasn't a bad album. It just
I don't think so.
sounded contrived to me.
Yeah, I don't think so. I literally saw Van Halen, the first tour was the Monsters of Rock with Metallica. Walked out. I was
Really?
there all day long,
What?
and I just couldn't take Sammy Hagar. Couldn't deal with it.
You're
can't
not a
take
Sammy
him either.
Hagar fan.
No, I
at
like
that
I
time.
like
What's up, guys?
I like the albums.
Right.
I can listen to them. I have no problem. Live,
Yeah.
it was just.
Well, they were far more serious and toned down.
Yeah, it wasn't doing it for me. And
Mr. Ladies,
I'm
no
probably
respect.
one of the few that didn't like Michael Anthony's bass solo with the JD bass.
Oh.
I was over it. I was out.
I'm not a fan of guitar solos, bass solos, drum solos, whatever. I just want to see the band. I do like it sometimes. You want to give the singer a break. Singer goes off, but all three band members stay out there and play an instrumental thing where maybe there's the shred guitar solo and the bass guy takes a bit and the drummer takes a 2-minute piece.
Yeah.
Right, but not like a 10-minute drum solo, a 10-minute guitar solo.
I'd rather hear more songs.
Even with Van Halen and Eddie Van Halen doing it, I think the live right here, right now guitar solo, it's 13 minutes, I think, is the most boring thing on the album.
What do you
I
guys
skip
look for
that
today?
thing every single time.
Yeah.
And I didn't like it when I saw it live in concert either. And yet, Eddie Van Halen's
Mike,
phenomenal.
we have a germs
And the
comp.
reason, and so getting back to the topic, the
You're looking for an
reason
original, right?
I think
Or
that they
you
were
don't
able
care?
to change
Oh,
singers and keep going and be successful
How's it going?
was
This
that
is
people were
everything.
really there
Yeah.
for Eddie Van Halen more than they were there for
GI, the
the
singles,
singer, yeah, or anyone else for that matter. It
It's
was
possible. I mean, he was a legend,
Right.
And he was a legend in his own time.
in his own time.
And
Yeah.
that's rare.
Right, it was.
Very rare.
But not very often does a guitar player define the sound of a band as much as the singer does. So Eddie Van Halen made
It's
the
one of those
sound of Van
fancy,
Halen, and yes, so did
expensive
David Lee
color
Roth,
versions.
but you still have that, right? Usually you can change a guitar player, a drummer, a bassist, and it doesn't affect it to the degree that a singer does.
Yeah.
Haven't seen you in a
No,
while.
I
Good
agree.
to see you.
I agree with you, and you said it perfectly. And to me, and this is probably off topic,
Yeah.
but to me, that's what makes a great guitar player. When you hear one or two notes,
Right, and you know it's
and
them.
you know it's Slash, you
Yes.
know it's Yngwie, you know they made a difference.
Absolutely.
And to me, that's what makes a great
Right.
guitar player.
Yeah, and I think
$70.
that's why in certain instances bands can continue on and they're okay, they're successful. I mean, I think AC/DC could continue on because Bon Scott had passed away. If he was still alive, people
there's
might
this
be
option.
screaming to have him
Or
back
there's
over
just the
Brian
standard,
Johnson, but
regular
that was a different type of circumstance.
This would be the crate.
Van Halen could continue because they had Eddie Van Halen, one of the most defining aspects of the sound of the band, But then there's other groups, and you change Motley Crue. You change Vince Neil, and
Yeah.
really he was the defining element of the band.
Yeah, and I don't know how you feel, but I think the diehard fans,
Yeah.
kind of all accepted that album.
They did, yeah.
I think the casual fan
Didn't.
wanted Vince back.
That's right. You're right in that instance, and it was strange, but you're right. They still sold 500,000 copies
Yeah.
of that album.
But definitely a downgrade from where they were.
Correct.
Where they
Correct.
were.
Yeah, after Dr. Feelgood, 6 million copies go to gold, but it was also 1994. There were so many things that came into it. I do think that Motley Crue, had the era of rock continued and grunge and alternative rock had not come in, they might have been able to really rise to it and have a couple million selling album
Yeah.
and go, but
But I think Nicky was
Yeah.
always too going with the flow. He
Yeah.
wanted to stay relevant.
Yeah.
I think, and
and that's why they got darker and down tuned
Yeah.
a bit and heavier and
yeah.
and yet it worked too, because if they had tried to write a Dr. Feelgood Part 2, it wouldn't have worked
Yeah.
because that wasn't what was out there at the time.
Yeah.
And so they were able to just kind of do enough that kept them relevant and selling, but at the same time it didn't sound like the old stuff.
It was
So
definitely different.
they probably lost as many fans as they did.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
it I don't think that it would have been done any better. I think if Vince Neil had been with them, I don't know that they would have sold any more. It was just kind of one of those things.
That
because
time. It was that
yeah,
time.
It was that time.
Nirvana, Soundgarden,
Yeah.
all the grunge stuff going on.
Right, right.
Now getting back to AC/DC though.
Right,
Now, I get that Bon had passed,
right.
but that album, it was the songs.
Oh, Back in Black.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, they certainly hit on something with
Yes.
the writing there. I mean, it wasn't just because.
And I think
right.
maybe that's what made that transition a hell of a lot smoother, because the songs.
Who else
Great
you guys looking
songs,
for, you know?
absolutely. I mean, they were at the peak
Yes.
with Highway to Hell, and
Yeah.
they were just continuing it. And I mentioned this before too, where before MTV, So there's no real image yet with Bon Scott unless you're seeing them live or looking at magazines, right? And it's not like today with the internet where you really see all, know who your guys in the band are. So he passes and people, Brian Johnson kind of sounded like Bon Scott. So to the radio and the average fan, it probably just sounded like, this is still my AC/DC.
Yeah, very rare people like you who are following and reading everything.
Would know.
They probably didn't even have a clue.
Right. It's like with Iron Maiden going from Bruce Dickinson to Blaze Bayley. That vocal change was so dramatic and different, and they had such an image set up with Bruce Dickinson. I don't think it was going to matter. I mean, they weren't going to do as much as they could have.
And there was something definitely different about Iron Maiden at that time. To me, it wasn't they just lost Bruce.
To me, retired or not retired, but they did a farewell tour with Bruce. So they
did.
Yeah, they let the public know. He announced he was leaving the band. They went out and did a farewell tour with So I think
I didn't even know that.
Yeah. So I actually think that that's partly why they were able to continue the way they did, because the fans accepted the fact that he wasn't fired. He didn't just leave. They went out to the farewell. He's like, I want to go be solo. And then, okay, we've got this new guy.
I had no idea. I literally thought Bruce quit.
Oh, no.
I had no idea.
Yeah. They went and there was a video called Raising Hell or something like that.
See that? Even when you're in the videos with Brendan, you learn things.
Yeah, man.
Yeah, that's great.
Right?
I mean, Brendan learned that Guns N' Roses is rock and roll, not glam rock.
I know. I learned that every time. And then I ignore it going forward.
I don't know about that. You ever see that Welcome to the Jungle video? That guy's hair is pretty high in that video.
That's right.
I agree.
Vito
but his hair is high in the video.
Right. But they're not glam.
It's not a way.
I don't know. That's a whole nother debate. I think.
Is a whole other debate.
Where do you stand on it?
They were glam.
I can't talk to you guys anymore.
They were glam. They started off as glam,
right,
and then just became a rock and roll band.
During the rise of Appetite, they became a rock band. Completely straight ahead.
I think they were rock, then got a little weird, and then went back to rock. It was only for that minute.
Yeah.
They were worried about selling. How are we going to sell ourselves? I'm sure somebody was whispering in her ear,
in the
tease your hair like poison.
Right.
Well, I mean, and this is a perfect example for this video. That whole band changed except for the singer.
And they still were able to go out and sell out arenas and things.
They were, if you wanted to wait till 2 a.m. for Axl to come out.
And it was awful.
I actually thought they sounded better.
But the magic was gone. They sounded better.
The magic was gone.
Yeah. But they weren't sloppy anymore.
No,
you're right.
It was a different band. I mean,
100%.
I thought Bumblefoot and DJ Ashba did a hell of a job.
Yeah.
Joel's all the way down at the end, Matt.
But it was different. It didn't have that grind to it.
The grit. It didn't have the spontaneity. The
DJ Ashburn. Oh, fuck.
Yeah, no, I agree. It was just Axl Rose solo.
It was.
At that point. But yet somehow people were into it.
Underneath.
It was
for live.
It was the mystique of. I think people went to see how long could I sit in an arena before Axl shows up and plays, because I know seeing him at the old Brendan Byrne. He came out, I think Asking Alexandria went off at like 9:30.
Yeah.
He didn't come out till about 1:45.
Oh, I never had it that long, but I saw them where they came out at 11 o'clock.
Yeah, no.
After the opener had gone on at 8 to 8:30. And so we sat there for 2.5 hours waiting. But they sent around the Did they send around the camera and ask all the girls to flash the camera?
Yeah, no.
So that kept me interested for 2.5 hours, and it kept the crowd pretty complacent.
No. My wife still complains about that. I can't believe you made me sit there for 6 hours waiting for this guy to come on.
He doesn't do that any longer.
No.
Yeah, they're really good. About a half hour you might wait.
I think AC/DC trained him on how to be a professional.
He was already doing it before that, but yes, I agree that he learned a lot, but he went into it even saying, he was talking about it beforehand, that he said, I know that I can't do this and I have to be a professional and I'm going to go on and do them right, kind of a thing. But even I'd seen Guns N' Roses reunion shows before that, and they were already going on time or within 30 minutes. So
with the
Axl
Rose solo band.
No, with the reunion. Once
Oh,
they did
the new
reunion.
one. Oh yeah.
Once they did the reunion in 2016, they've
been perfect.
They've been perfect
Yes.
since then. I think he just realized. I'm sure as part of the thing that Slash and everyone said, we're not doing this unless you'll go on. Like come on, let's do
And
this.
there's a lot of money on the table. I mean, so
Promoters probably said it as well.
Yeah.
It's a little different today than it was, back in the late 80s, early 90s, right?
I agree.
Now people will sue you. Somebody didn't go on. Madonna went on like 2 hours late, and a bunch of people sued her for it.
How'd that go?
Because I don't know. I don't know if it got thrown out of court or it actually happened or whatever. But I saw it in the papers where people were saying, "Oh, I have to go to work the next day, and you're making me stay out late, and babysitters, and all of this kind of stuff."
That's kind of weak.
Right.
That's weak.
But they claim that the ticket says when the show is going to start, and they didn't do it, and so it's a misadvertisement. Legally today, you could sue for that, but it's stupid.
Yeah, I can't see doing
The world is too litigious today in general.
That's crazy. But I guess going back to what we were talking about, would you say most of the 80s hair bands are interchangeable parts?
Today they are. Yeah. But I mean, I think that also killed a lot of them.
Yeah, but how do you feel about it?
Awesome.
What do you mean? You was changing? I'm totally cool with it.
Yeah, I am too.
Town.
Depending on, I'm still out with Quiet Riot. I don't know how I feel about that.
Why are you the messenger?
Although I love all of them separately.
Right.
Without
Without having some defining member. I don't like it when bands have a drummer only. And in the case of Quiet Riot, you have no original members. Rudy Sarzo did not play on the first 2 albums. In fact, he didn't play on Metal Health either. He plays on two songs, right? So it's like, they hadn't had an original member though for a long time because Frankie Banali wasn't original either.
I don't have a problem with them going out and playing.
Right.
And I would probably go see them. I wouldn't have a problem with that. I just don't know if I get the whole Quiet Riot is here tonight.
That's what I mean.
That's where I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm on the fence about it. There's parts of me that say if you still sound like it and you put on a great show, why not? Members change. If the drummer's the last man standing. But for a drummer to put together an entirely new lineup, and it hasn't been this guy left and then somebody else comes in and he's now been here for 10 years, and then somebody else leaves, and eventually there's no original members, but it's been natural and fluid with changing members, not like, hey, let's get back together, and yet the drummer's the only original guy. I just want somebody defining to be leading.
That was one of the things that people used to complain about Faster Pussycat, that it's only Tammy. But the odd he is, but the odd thing is, not just recently because the guitar players have been changing, but for the most part, that band that he assembled was together longer than the original band.
Right.
So I didn't have a problem with that. I used to get bothered when they said, "Oh, there's a bunch of scabs playing." I didn't feel that way.
Right. And I agree with that. There's sometimes where the current bands that are out on the road that
what's up, listen?
don't have original members or only have one guy left, but they've been around longer than the original band that was 6-7 years only, and yet everybody cries about that.
Yeah. So LA Guns is another one. I think the band that they have today is better than the original.
If you really want to.
But at least you have Tracy and Phil.
Yes,
Lewis.
but to me,
do it.
You kind of made like, why do you say that? Is it because of the songs or the albums that you remember growing up with? Because I'm looking at
I just don't think the new stuff sounds as good as the old stuff at all. I think it's way underproduced, and the songs are just run of the mill. I
don't know. I really think the 5 guys they have today are better than what they had in the original. And I'm talking the songs too. I understand what you're saying production wise. I could get past that again as long as they're creating new music.
Yeah, as long as they're making new albums, I'm good with that. So I think with a lot of this, it's it's going to be up to personal preference, right? We're obviously more open to members changing than the average general public. People are, and I think if the music that's coming out is as strong as the original, whether it's original members or not, that says something about it, And then certainly it really depends on who the member is that changes, because the singer is not always the most defining element.
Yeah.
Sometimes people are willing to have a singer change, but you can't change a guitar player. So you have things like that.
Yeah.
But anyways, you guys, weigh in on this and let us know where you stand on this, and whether you think that, if members change, does that spell the end of a band, or is it okay? Right? So let us know. Yeah, let us know your thoughts on that. I'll see you soon, guys.
Take care.
Bye-bye.